Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Butcher's Fresh Cuts, a proud part of the Miller Park Minute Podcast Network. It's been so nice to hear all the positive feedback from some of you, and it's been so much fun bringing you these breakdowns and doing what we do best here at the MPM, throwing strikes and getting likes. We're getting through the winter and the off season nicely here, with less than 60 days left until opening day, and moves are being made and rosters are being finalized. Also, the World Baseball Classic is coming up real soon, and it's going to be as epic as can be as countries are compiling rosters that look like fantasy baseball lineups. We will be for sure talking a lot about that as that approaches. We spent the last three episodes going over the Brewers roster coming into the 2023 season and how we feel about it. So I figured a nice way to move forward would be to break down the other teams we will be seeing a lot of in 2023, our NL Central foes. Of course, this season will look a lot different when it comes to the divisional play. The MLB changed their scheduling format in a huge way coming into the season, bringing the number of divisional games each team will play down from 76 to 52. Where each team used to face each of their divisional rivals 18 to 19 times a season, they will now be facing off just 13 times across four series in 2023 and beyond, with 52 games being split up evenly between home and road games. Additionally, there will now be 64 interleague games, NL teams versus NL teams, down from 66. And the biggest jump in change in scheduling changes comes in the interleague matchups, where there used to be 20 interleague matchups per team. There will now be 46, more than doubling, allowing each team to face every major league team in a season. This will allow each team to have a chance to face the superstars from every other team each season, and fans will have the amazing opportunity to see the league's brightest stars on a more regular and realistic basis. So you'll be able to see those Yankees teams. You'll be able to see those Red Sox, Rays. I don't know why I said Rays, but the Angels. You'll be able to see Shohei Ohtani come every other year. So you'll be able to see. I don't know if you're a Mariners fan like I am. You'll be able to see a lot more of them than it used to be every 6 years. They'd be coming to your home ballpark or more for some reason, because I know that we hadn't been to Baltimore in, gosh, close to 20 years before we went there this season. Um, so this season, as a result, we'll have a slight less emphasis on divisional play, but overall, 18 games to 13 isn't a huge dive, and 52 games out of a 162 game schedule isn't a giant fraction, and the NL Central and the moves the teams have made in it have made the division stronger on paper than it was last season. Last season, the NL Central sent just one team to the postseason, the 93-win St. Louis Cardinals, with the Brewers falling just short of a wild card berth at 86 and 76. The Cubs took a dive, ending in third with a record of 74 and 88, and rounding out the division were the Reds and Pirates, both with records of 62 and 100. With four of the five teams in the division seemingly attempting to improve in the offseason somewhat, the division looks to be improving again and could potentially send two teams to the postseason next year. So let's dive in and first look at the one team from the division that did, the St. Louis Cardinals, those dirty Redbirds. The 2022 Cardinals season was full of magic in many ways, from Albert Pujols coming back to the city that made him to joining the 700 Club on September 23rd. Paul Goldschmidt winning the NL MVP, and Nolan Arenado having another historic season for the all-time great third baseman. Yadier Molina finishing off a Hall of Fame career, and him and Waino breaking the record for all-time starts between a pitcher and catcher duo. That magic led them all the way to 93 wins and a comfortable division win. That magic finally ran out when they ran into the brick wall that was the late season Phillies, who eventually swept the Redbirds in two games. But for Cardinals fans, who are one of the most loyal and diehard fan bases in all of baseball, this season will not be remembered for their postseason beatdown at the hands of the Fightin' Phils. No, this season will be remembered for the magic. And let's cut a little deeper as we do on Bush's Fresh Cuts. Cardinals hitters were on fire in 2022, led by monster mashers Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. The team's lineup finished third in baseball in offensive WAR, 32.8, just behind the Yankees. They were fifth in weighted runs created plus at 114. That's another stat where 100 is considered league average, and anything above is above league average, and anything below is inherently below league average. They were just behind the Bronx Bombers, the Yankees in that category. They were also one of the most disciplined teams in baseball at the plate with a 19.9% strikeout rate, good for fourth best in all of baseball. When I say this team was led by Paul Goldschmidt, I should say the whole league was led by him because Goldie went off in 2022, cementing his legacy as a St. Louis Cardinal, so much so that I would argue that he is already more remembered as a Cardinal than he ever was as an Arizona Diamondback. Goldie won his first National League MVP award in 2022, landing 22 of 30 first place votes. He led the National League in slugging percentage with a 578%, and led the NL in OPS with a 981, finished second in RBIs with 115. He racked up 324 total bases and had a 404 on base percentage. He hit for average at 317 and he bonked 35 ding dongs. On top of his MVP award in 2022, he also won the NL Hank Aaron Award and won his fifth Silver Slugger Award, which gives him the record for most Silver Sluggers ever won by first baseman. Goldie had a career year full of career years. Or career year full of career years. He's on a Hall of Fame track for sure, and I'm really happy for him that he's found a home in St. Louis. He was having a hard time gaining national recognition for his incredible talents in Arizona, being a part of a perpetually losing team. There's no reason to think that he won't go off again in 2023. So let's look forward. Look forward to Brewers pitchers having to face off against him, and let's hope they can get through him relatively unscathed. Nolan Arenado is another example of a player whose amazing career was being overshadowed by being a part of a bad team for a number of years while he was with the Rockies in Denver. The Cardinals managed to pluck him out of there as well, and now his generational talents are out there on full display for the world to see. Arenado had another masterful season at the plate in 2022, finishing with a 293, 358, 533 slash line, putting up 30 home runs and 103 RBIs. Quietly putting out incredible numbers. This made for his seventh season of 30-plus home runs and 100-plus RBIs in his 10-year career. Arenado also had the lowest ground ball percentage of all major leaguers at 29.7%. Unsurprisingly, he led all third basemen in ultimate zone rating with a 13 mark and was awarded his 10th consecutive, that's right, 10th consecutive Gold Glove Award, tying one of the all-time greatest of the greats, Ichiro Suzuki, for the most consecutive Gold Gloves to start a career. He was also awarded his 6th consecutive Platinum Glove, as well as his 5th Silver Slugger Award. Once again, we are talking about another player that the Cardinals have on their roster who is building up a near guaranteed Hall of Fame career, and as the team watches two Hall of Famers close the books on their respective careers, they have two future Hall of Famers producing for the team year in and year out, illustrating that the Cardinals absolutely have one of the greatest front offices in all of sports. As for the rest of the lineup in 2022, they have plenty of other ballers mixed throughout their lineup and their bench. Tommy Edman, for example, racked an impressive 5.6 wins above replacement for the season. He swiped 32 bags and had a whopping 12 defensive runs saved, proving he's one of the top defensive infielders in the National League. Albert Pujols himself had an insane season to wrap up his career, knocking 24 home runs. He had a 345 on-base percentage. He slugged 550 and has had a surprisingly low strikeout rate at just 15.7%. So even if they were throwing the old man's special balls, he was still making contact at a fantastic rate against today's young hard throwers at the age that he is, which nobody knows if he's really the age that he is or if he's a couple of years older. Young studs Brandon Donovan and Lars Nootbaar had nice seasons at the plate as well, combining together for 5.4 wins above replacement between the two of them, each in their age 25 or younger seasons. The Cardinals added longtime Cubs backstop and Brewers foe Wilson Contreras to replace the great Yadier Molina. And I can't think of a more perfect replacement for the 19-year veteran than Contreras, who conveys much of the same grit and defiance as Yadi has over the years, and both can be some of the clutchest bats you can find historically at the catcher position. Contreras is coming off a fantastic age 30 season in his seventh in the big leagues, where he jacked 22 home runs, had an 815 OPS, and he hit 23 doubles in 487 plate appearances. As for the Cardinals pitching staff in 2022, they were mostly a middling team, though a staff that battled injury and one that also lacked some youth. The pitching staff finished 10th in all of baseball in earned run average, good for a 3.79. However, they ranked 17th in pitching ERA pitching ERA at 13.4, and Houston led baseball with 27. One area they were completely lost in was strikeouts. They were last in all of baseball at just 7.38 strikeouts per 9 innings. This, however, is sort of the identity of the team's pitching staff. They were a playoff team, remember. Looking at Adam Wainwright as a perfect example, who at 40 years old was second in innings pitched on the team, pitched to just a 17.8 strikeout rate. Miles Michaelis, who led the team in innings, had just a 19% strikeout rate. Outside of Giovanni Gallegos and Ryan Helsley, they are a staff that relies mainly on pitching to contact. Outside of the addition of Contreras, the only player on the team added was a shortstop named Jose Fermin, who they got from Cleveland. The team, of course, lost Yadi and Pujols, and they also lost right-handed pitcher Alex Reyes, Jose Quintana, Corey Dickerson, and center fielder Ben DeLuzio in free agency. In summary, the Dirty Birds are a team who won a lot of games last season, despite a pitching staff who really underperformed in 2022, and they lost a big piece of the rotation that last season in Jack Flaherty. They won 93 games, lost one of their biggest producers at the plate in 2022. This team finds a way to continue to win a huge amount of games year in and year out. They never have losing seasons, and as baseball goes through its ebbs and flows, the Cardinals remain a constant, always somewhere near or right at the top of the crop. I suspect a big step back for them in 2023 as the Cubs have improved, and I have too much faith in the Brewers to see them crumble this year. Give the Cardinals 90 wins. I know 3 wins doesn't sound like a big step down, but it could be the difference between the division title, a wild card, or not even making the playoffs. Goldie will be once again in top 10 in MVP voting, but I think Nolan Arenado in 2023 will be even higher than Goldie next season. So moving on, we will head to the north side and talk about those Cubby Bears. 2022 wasn't anything to write home about for the Miller Park South inhabitants, but it was merely a transition year for the club, as illustrated by their slew of offseason moves, which we will highlight in our profile on the team today. The offense for the team in 2022 was near the bottom in most statistics, finishing 19th in batting wins above replacement at 15.7, just behind the Red Sox at 20th. In WRC Plus at 98, and as a team that batted 238, good for 19th in the majors, but just for reference, was better than the Brewers, who ranked 22nd in baseball with a 235 team batting average. So the Cubs were actually higher in batting average, yet lost 11 more games than the Brewers. So that tells you how much our pitching carried us last season. The offense was essentially led by outgoing catcher Wilson Contreras, who, as we discussed just a little earlier, had a nice season offensively, good for a 128 OPS plus. Nico Horner for the Cubs had a productive season as well, also raking in 55 RBIs, the same number as Contreras did, 22 doubles, 20 stolen bags, and had 135 hits to a 281 batting average. Ian Happ, who always seems to produce year in and year out, led the offense with 72 ribbies. He also led the team with 58 walks, a whopping 42 doubles, and 155 hits. 42 doubles, 3.5. That's massive. That's fantastic. Patrick Wisdom also struck out a bunch, 183 times, and hit a bunch of home runs, 25, because those are things that Patrick Wisdom just does. The Baby Bears pitching staff in 2022, much like their lineup, sat near the bottom third of baseball in most categories, finishing 20th in team ERA with a 4.03, sitting just behind the Twinkies. For reference, the Brewers were 12th. The pitching staff raked in just 8.7 wins above replacement, which put them at 26th in all of baseball, behind the Texas Rangers, who also performed a huge makeover in the offseason. The rotation for the Cubs was led by Marcus Stroman, who pitched the bulk of the innings with 138 and 2/3 to a tune of a 3.50 ERA and a 1.147 walks and hits in innings pitched. Justin Steele had a breakout season. I'm sure you guys remember seeing a bunch of him last season. Breakout at age 26, pitching 119 innings to a 3.18 ERA. He led the rotation with 126 strikeouts, gave up just 8 home runs, and rocked it for my fantasy team all year. I picked him up quite a few times last season. Keegan Thompson also had a breakout season for the team. I picked him a couple times, and I know he had a couple blow-ups that hurt me a little bit. Putting in 115 innings of work to a 3.76 ERA. The bullpen was a pieced-together mishmash of pitchers with 36 dudes putting in work for the team, with Mark Leader Jr. putting in the bulk of the innings with 67. I'm just a little sidetrack here. I just want to point out that Eric from the Miller Park Minute and we team up here, but we also play a fantasy baseball league the past 2 seasons. And I just want to point out to all of you listeners out there that back-to-back years, I have won that league. And this season, Eric and I faced each other in the championship. And it was a 2-week process for the championship. And I believe he won week 1, but I stomped him in week 2 to have back-to-back crowning championships in the Miller Park Minute Fantasy Baseball League. Back to the Cubs. Unfortunately, most of all that, what we talked about the Cubs is basically a little irrelevant, as the 2022 Cubs look nothing like what the 2023 club will look like when they step out on the dirt against the Crew on opening day. First off, in a slew of moves this offseason, the Cubs picked up 2019 National League MVP runner-up Cody Bellinger. That might sound weird, but as you remember, in my personal record book, Christian Yelich, in fact, won the 2019 award, and he went back-to-back, and Cody Bellinger didn't. Cody Bellinger famously hasn't been the player he was back in 2019, mostly due to injuries. He is still a top-tier defensive center fielder, and the Cubs have been lacking that in a big way for a number of years, so a very nice addition for them defensively. The Cubs signed Cody on a 1-year, $17.5 million contract, taking a flyer on a guy who was still just 27 years old and won a Rookie of the Year award back in 2017. And though his offensive numbers have been down in recent years, there's always a chance that a change of scenery could be just a thing a player needs to get his swing back. The Cubby Bears bolstered their rotation by adding 31-year-old righty Jameson Taillon. Taillon had a nice season with the Yankees last season, making 32 starts and 177 in the third innings, going 14-5 to a 3.91 ERA, notably just walking 4.4% of the batters he faced. Not a good rate, something he's going to have to vastly improve, especially in the confines of Wrigley Field, where the weather can be really awful early in the season, late in the season, and you can have rain and wind and all those factors. He struck out just 7.66% of the batters per 9 last season, which will mean he will need that solid defense of the Cubs that they're trying to build behind him. The Cubs signed Jameson to a 4-year, $68 million contract to middle up the rotation. He has a career 51-35 record with a 3.84 career ERA. He's going to eat innings for the Cubs, and he will make the rotation better during a time that the team builds again and trying to regain the glory of a time that was not so long ago. The most notable signing of the Cubs offseason, and the one that probably enraged me the most, was their agreement to sign former Brave shortstop Dansby Swanson to a 7-year, $177 million contract. I'm a big fan of Dansby, and when he's on, he's a true baller, and that was evident as ever in 2022, where he racked up 5.7 Baseball Reference wins above replacement. He hit 25 home runs. He had 177 hits. He slugged .447 and had a .329 on base. And he made his first All-Star game last year, won his first Gold Glove. This all coming after, of course, winning his first ring in 2021. He's a huge addition to a lineup that was mostly stagnant in 2022, and he just seems to fit in perfectly at Miller Park South. The Cubs also added former Brewers reliever Brad Boxberger, catcher Tucker Barnhart, first baseman Eric Hosmer, and they brought back pitcher Drew Smyly. The outlook for the Cubs in 2023 is a slightly improved one. After winning 74 games in 2022, they will likely come up closer to the 500 range. This is a team that refuses to die and go full teardown, and that's quite remarkable, actually. They have been strategically moving pieces in and out the last couple of years without completely bottoming out, and now they seem to be beginning the ascent back up. Perhaps the days of the full teardown, gone full rebuild are over. I don't see the Cubs as a huge threat to the Brewers for second place in the division this year, but my heart is strong. But let's just win 9 of these 13 against the Northsiders, and it'll feel real good, and let's pound them on opening day. Now, the last 2 teams that I'm going to talk about are both teams who are unfortunately plagued by the cruel hand of poor ownership. The Pirates for many years have been stuck in the depths of mediocrity due to Bob Nutting selling off any player who plays even the slightest bit too well. Brian Reynolds is not likely, but going to be the next player to have his career salvaged by a trade that guarantees him at least an ownership group who can at least give him the appearance like they want to win something sometime soon. As much as I enjoy the clear advantage that having two dumpster-dwelling teams in the division who have probably the worst ownership groups in all of baseball sitting there to play a large chunk of games against each year, it is sad that the NL Central houses two teams like this, and two teams with such storied and winning histories that persists, causing loyal, lifelong fans to turn their backs to boycott. It's shameful and it hurts to watch. And with that, let's talk the Buccos. The Pirates finished with just 62 wins in 2022. They had an offense that ranked 27th in Major League Baseball with just a 6.7 wins above replacement. Now, didn't we just talk about Dansby, who had 5.4 on his own? The Cubs offense had 6.7. With many, many players, including Dansby, accumulating far more WAR than that throughout the season. They were 28th in weighted runs created plus with 84, the second worst strikeout percentage in baseball at 25.3%, and that's 28th best. The 28th best on base rate in baseball at 291, and were once again one of the worst offenses in all of baseball. The offense did consist of a couple ballers, however. Brian Reynolds had a very nice season, though his departure at this point is a foregone conclusion, whether it's in the offseason or during the 2023 regular season. He led the club with 27 home runs, 62 RBIs, 74 runs scored, and had a 126 OPS+. O'Neal Cruz, who is going to be a future superstar, throws balls from short at speeds up to 105, and he's a superb defender and had a nice year for his young age 23 season, racking up a 107 OPS+, and was second on the team with a 450 slugging percentage. He racked up 13 doubles, had 17 home runs, and swiped 10 bags in just 361 plate appearances. Ke'Bryan Hayes had a decent offensive year, racking up 123 hits, stealing 20 bags, and bopping a club-leading 24 doubles. In the offseason, the Pirates made the kind of moves that a team makes when they don't really want to improve, but they still want to fill a few seats. So they make some moves that will have some name power to fool a few fans into thinking that the front office is cooking something up. But there are a few changes that the Pirates made to shake up the lineup a bit. Forgive me. The Buccos recently brought back 2013 NL MVP and five-time All-Star outfielder Andrew McCutchen. Kutch is years removed from being the kind of player that used to put fear in opposing pitchers every time he would step up to the plate, and at age 36, and with the Pirates loaded with a crop of young talent all over the field, he may play more of a designated hitter role. In 2022, Kutch suffered the first year of his 14-year career where his OPS plus was below 100, sitting just below at 99. He batted just .237 to a 700 OPS. He had 17 home runs and still cranked out 25 doubles and 580 plate appearances, but not the Kutch of years gone by. He's going to spend the rest of his career in Pittsburgh, where he became a legend to the people of the area. And in my personal record book, he will forever be a National League Central Hall of Famer. The Pirates also signed another 36-year-old former masher in Carlos Santana. Santana has enjoyed a nice 13-year career in the big leagues, spending the bulk of his time in Cleveland, making it to the World Series with the team in 16. He's a career low-average, high-slug kind of hitter, batting .242 for his career with a .359 on base and a .432 slugging percentage. And now he's regressed quite a bit from his last season of dominance in 2019, when he made his first All-Star game and clubbed a career-high 34 home runs. Last season, between the Royals and the Mariners, he hit 19 dingers, drove in 60, batted just .202, and even his slugging was down at just .376. This is another goofy move by Bob Nutting, and to hopefully sell a couple tickets to promote veteran clubhouse leadership. The Buccos also added catcher Austin Hedges, traded for former Rocky third baseman Connor Joe, who I had a little bit on fantasy last year as well, traded for right-handed pitcher Jack Hartman for the lovable, flexible first baseman G-Man Choi, who we all love, and he had a cup of coffee with the Brewers back in the day. Hit a grand slam, and then they got rid of him the next day. Now, I'm not going to dive too deep into the Pirates pitching staff, as we will see more from some of their young pitchers this season and look for some breakouts as they come up. But the staff was led, if you could say that, in 2022 by Mitch Keller and Jose Quintana. With Keller logging a team-leading 159 innings, he finished with a 3.91 ERA, struck out 138, and like every Pirates starter, was destroyed by low run support, finishing with just a 5-12 record. The staff gave innings to current Brewer Bryce Wilson, JT Brubaker, who had a very rough year, Zach Thompson, who suffered the same fate, and youngster Roansy Contreras, who showed some promise, pitching 95 innings to a 3.79 ERA. Like I said before, the Pirates are a team that is suffering from poor ownership. They developed some phenomenal talent like Brian Hayes, O'Neill Cruz, and if you look back at their recent history, you can find countless examples of superstars who spent their budding years in Pittsburgh only to be traded away when their contract comes up, particularly with pitching. They will suffer from another season of below-average baseball. I picture them finishing fourth again, but improving just under 100 losses on the year. I think we will see a true breakout season from Cruz as he begins to light up the stat sheets as well as the highlight reels this coming season. Moving on now, we will talk about the final team we will be discussing today in the NL Central, as we will be talking about the Brewers every week here and spent the last 3 shows discussing their roster coming into the season, which leaves us with the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds, just like the Pirates, are a team who are bogged down and held back year in and year out by terrible ownership. Bob Castellini purchased the team back in 2006 and has basically made a mockery of a once storied franchise in Major League Baseball. Despite telling the Reds fans upon purchasing the team that we were buying the Reds to win, anything else is unacceptable, the Reds have the 22nd most wins during Castellini's ownership, just 5 winning seasons, and despite a couple of playoff appearances, are one of only 7 teams to fail to make their league's championship series since his time as owner. Bob notoriously caught some flack in the media last season when asked about his ownership group's selling off of organizational centerpieces. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, where are they going to go when referring to Cincinnati's fans? He also made comments recently at an event that he runs the team like a nonprofit, and he complains about trying to compete with other billionaire owners. Now, Major League Baseball franchises make profit year in and year out, regardless of how many tickets they sell, how many wins they produce, and whether or not they make the postseason. Owners like Bob Nutting in Pittsburgh and Bob Castellini in Cincinnati are acting like small business owners trying to compete with Walmart. That's not the case. That just isn't the case. They are billionaires competing with other billionaires, and they blame the fans and the market for their unwillingness to pull out the pocketbook and attempt to fulfill the promises that they made to the fan bases of their respective franchises that they made when purchasing these teams. The Reds are yet another example of a National League Central team with a championship pedigree and a beautiful waterfront ballpark and loyal fan bases that continually are treated like an unwanted plaything of the owners that possess these storied franchises. And with that, here's the Reds. The 2022 Reds suffered their second miserable season in a row since slipping into the playoffs just to get swept in 2 games in 2020 during the shortened season. Much like the Pirates, their offense was near the bottom of baseball in every category. They finished second to last in baseball offensive WAR, compiling just 5.2. So that was less than Dansby Swanson. There are players who compiled more WAR than this entire lineup over the course of the season. For another reference, Aaron Judge more than doubled this number with 10.6 for the year. They were 21st in league batting average with a .235, just behind the Orioles. They were 27th in WRC plus with an 85, where a 100 is league average, remember. They had 7th worst strikeout percent in all of baseball, whiffing in 23.9% of their at-bats, and that's tough baseball to watch for their fans. The offense was mainly led by Brandon Drury, who left for San Diego near the trade deadline to get a taste of the postseason. Drury led the team with an .855 OPS while he was there. Catcher Tyler Stevenson put up a very nice offensive season but was limited to just 183 plate appearances due to nursing injuries a majority of the season. He put up a 319 batting average and slugged 482, and that was good for an 854 OPS on the year. Outside of that, it was a pretty piss-poor offensive year for the Reds. Legend and other NL Central Hall of Famer Joey Votto even had a down year, batting just 205 on the year with a 689 OPS. The Reds' pitching staff was just as poor for the team, finishing 21st in the team's pitching WAR with a 9.9. They were 29th in baseball with a 4.86 team ERA, just behind the blown-up Royals. Now, one interesting fact about this staff, however, is that they are young and building towards a flame-throwing, K-inducing unit that will be good in years to come. They sat 11th in all of baseball in strikeouts per nine with an 8.94, just behind the NL pennant-winning Philadelphia Phillies. The staff appears to be the centerpiece. Oh, I don't know why I wrote that. Hunter Green appears to be the centerpiece that the team is trying to build around. Most of the top of the line guys under the age of 27. The staff was led by young Sports Illustrated cover boy Hunter Green. Now, Hunter Green is a dude. The guy is either giving you incredible 10-plus strikeout performances, or he's giving you 3.1 innings and giving up 7 runs. He was just 22 last year and lit up the highlight reels with pitches reaching speeds of 104. And at such a young age, this kid is destined to be throwing harder as he ages and could possibly break Aroldis Chapman's record of a pitch thrown at 105.3. Green struck out 164 batters in 125 and 2/3 innings pitched in 2022, and it's going to be exciting to see what he comes up with this year. Nick Lodolo, a 24-year-old lefty, had a nice little season for the Reds in 2022, pitching 103 and a third innings, striking out 131 to a 3.66 ERA, and will look to improve upon that this coming season. The team also has nice young talents in Graham Ashcraft, Tyler Mahle, both younger and appearing to still be reaching their full potential. The Reds made a number of moves in the offseason in an effort to build around the young talent they have coming up and to continue to sell a few tickets as the team heads into what will more than likely be another 100-plus loss season. The team let go of a few names last season, or in the offseason, including catcher Austin Romine, reliever Hunter Strickland, starter Mike Minor, who pitched a lot of innings for the team last season. They also DFA'd the Moose, who was paid a lot of money to do a whole lot of nothing in Cincinnati following his time with the Brewers. None of these are huge losses, and the team did more than enough to replace these guys. More than enough of nothing. The Reds added utility man Nick Solak, who they got in a deal with the Rangers for cash in the offseason. Solak is a 28-year-old guy who can play the middle infield or corner outfield spots and had a nice little breakout in 2019, but has failed to reach the hype of that nice season. He's been streaky. He's the kind of guy you pick up once or twice during the fantasy baseball season to get you a few points here or there when he's on a little heater. The Reds also trade for Kevin Newman, formerly of the Pirates, second baseman. He's another sort of mid player who's still relatively young at 28, who's had some nice flashes in his career, including a 2019 where he batted .308 and hit 20 doubles. They also added catcher Kurt Casale and outfielder Will Myers, both just pieces, nothing that will put them over the 10s in team offensive WAR next season. The Reds are my pick to be the basement dwellers of the division in 2023. They have the young pitching to win them some games, but with the moves they made for the offense in the offseason, I don't really see the point. It didn't really get any better or any worse for that matter. In my opinion, they could have essentially trotted out the same lineup as last year and got the same result. Maybe I'm a little too harsh on the owners of these teams because Pittsburgh has some young talent that I really am excited to see on the offensive side, and Cincinnati likewise has some of the most exciting young hurlers in all the game. Maybe one of these teams will break out in their respective funks in the coming years, and then I can eat crow about it, and I hope I do. Because baseball is better when the NL Central is hot, and right now, it's a very segregated division. In the end, I think the Cardinals top the division at the end of the year with around 90 or so wins. I think the Brewers eke out a wild card with just 89, just behind the Birds. I believe the Cubs get right around 500 with 82 wins. The Pirates will stay in the same spot at fourth place, but will improve their numbers to about 68 wins. And the Reds will fall even further, maxing out at 60 wins, further widening the expanses between groups of fans at that beautiful Great American Ballpark in Cincy. That's my take on the division as of now, going into spring training. Let me know what you all think down below. I'm so happy I get to talk to you every week. I'm glad that you are all as excited about baseball as I am. We'll be probably talking a little more often in the coming days and weeks. Into the chat right now. What it do, buddy?
Did you know I was here the whole time, just throwing up random stuff in the bottom?
Not the first one I saw was right at the end when I was talking about Hunter Green, and you said that's fast or that's heat or something.
I love Butcher's hair. Did you
I
know
cut it myself.
Butcher got a hit off of Dario Melendez in men's league?
Honestly, I gotta explain that stuff.
That's it coming in tomorrow's episode. We'll find out the details in the next episode.
Then I'll give my rebuttal next week.
Sorry, I had to. I was having fun. Okay, see this list, dude? We're on Amazon, Castbox, iHeartRadio, Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere, man. So
taking it by storm.
Gotta pop that. I was updating that. I was actually just came in to update that stuff, and I was like listening because I always listen to your episodes, and I was like, gosh, I gotta put that stuff out there. So
yeah, we are everywhere.
Great stuff. We are.
What's your take on the division?
Very similar. I feel we eke it out. I feel it's gonna be a tight race, but I think we still have the pitching. We didn't lose the pitching, and that's been our number one strength. I think last year team chemistry was really affected, and
health.
I think they've got time to rebuild that. You know what I mean? We're at a point now where we have new players. We're inserting this kind of new nucleus on top of the old nucleus. So we've got time to mesh and grow together. The Cardinals made some moves, but I mean, it's really like Wilson Contreras. I mean, you know, I don't think that there's anything that really shatters record books here. I mean, you know, the Cardinals are going to continue to be good. They're always good. And they probably will be till we die. So, I mean, let's just live with that. You know what I mean? And then, I feel I put Cubbies second because I feel like the Cubbies shed some weight. They've been under that Hayward deal for far too long. And now that he's gone, they got Bellinger in there. They got Swanson. Did they get Tyone or did they get Walker?
They got Tyone went to. I just talked about him.
I forget who.
Yeah, he went to the Cubs.
So they added a pitcher. Whatever, they added a pitcher. They got Marcus Stroman, who's awesome. They got that Japanese guy.
Yeah, he's gonna. That's a smart move. He is really.
And then they still have Hendricks, who freaking Hendricks owns us every time. And yeah. And then from there out, I picked the Pirates because the Pirates made a little bit of improvement. You know, and they brought back Kutch, and then they have, you know, what's that guy that we had that we swapped back and forth a few times on fantasy?
The bullpen
crazy
dude?
Shortstop.
David Bednar. O'Neill Cruz.
The Bednar, yeah, we had Bednar, and then we had
O'Neill Cruz.
O'Neill Cruz, and then they got Ke'Bryan Hayes, which
yeah.
He's been pretty awesome, and then Rich Hill was signed. Like, that's a weird one to me. I don't know why. That
he'll always be signed. He'll pitch till he's 50.
Right. the Fernando Rodney, but in starting pitcher form.
Rich Hill's still pitching nice out there, though. He'll give you
Yeah.
4 1/3 innings of nice baseball.
So yeah, and we got some Hall stuff. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Clevenger, we'll talk more about that. What else? There's lots of stuff that we'll talk more about in future episodes of our show here. But I really appreciate you. I wanted to come on and give you some love. That's why I made all these funny little posts that I was posting down at the bottom. So it literally said, "I love Butcher's hair" for a good 5 minutes. It said
Cut
the
it
Darwin
myself.
Loans. It's looking solid right now.
Don't
It
look
said
at the
you
back.
own me in fantasy baseball. Who wants to see more of the Butcher? So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this. We're 20 some episodes in, 24, 25, I think is this number. And let's keep it rolling. I mean, we're making friends in the community. I want to get some more, I want to do a panel show where I was just talking about this on the Hall of Fame broadcast I did before, where I want to talk about Ryan Braun's number retirement and Jim Gatner's number retirement and Brewers that they should be honored. Braun is up in 2025 for Hall of Fame, which I don't know that he'll get there, but that's discussion we can have.
For the Hall of Fame, yeah, I think that's a pretty quick discussion.
That's a stretch, right?
That's a stretch.
We're on the same page. JJ Hardy did not make it, didn't get a single vote. We knew that was going to happen, So yeah, that's it. Hey, we're on Patreon now too. Go over patreon.com/Miller Park Minute. If you want to contribute to the show, help us get a little bit better, or just buy us a slice of pizza. Pizza party.
Anchovies.
Yes, Hawaiian. Pineapple on pizza.
I like Hawaiian.
I do too.
I approve.
All right, man. Well, that's it for the show. I'll let Butcher just finish this thing off, and you guys have a great night.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, throwing strikes and getting likes. Soup pitched great, and as always, don't widen the plate. We'll see you next time. We're out.
Thank you for watching the Miller Park Minute. Go Brewers!